Everybody good to go?
I have questions.
Whenever you're ready, Sheriff.
All right. Well, good morning, and thank you for being here today. We have some very good news in some cold cases here that we have investigated at the Fresno County Sheriff's Office. Today, I am joined by Fresno County District Attorney Lisa Smitkamp. I have other members of the District Attorney's Office team here. I have Lieutenant Joe Smith from the Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit, along with his team members as well. We would like to announce that detectives from the Fresno County Sheriff's Office have arrested 61-year-old Robert Castillo of Fresno. He has been booked into the Fresno County Jail on 1 charge of murder, 2 counts of rape, and 1 count of sexual assault. This stems from incidents that occurred back in 2004. On August 31st, 2004, a body was reported to be found in a dirt field near the intersection of California and Polk Avenues in Fresno. The decedent was later identified as 43-year-old Barbara Lee, also known as Barbara Parker. At the time, homicide detectives interviewed several people who knew Barbara, but never developed information about who had killed her. In 2024, the Fresno County Sheriff's Office Homicide Unit implemented a new strategic plan to address the investigation of cold cases. Working with the Fresno County District Attorney's Office, they established the Cold Case Unit Review Board, which meets monthly. Its members include dedicated cold case homicide detectives, crime analysts, prosecutors, and DA investigators. This group to date has successfully solved 9 cold case homicides over the past year, including the Barbara Lee case. Of those 9, 8 cases have been filed for charges by the Fresno County District Attorney's Office. A review of facts and evidence in this case supported further investigation. The arrest was made in thanks to part of this team and the use of evolving DNA technology, which allowed law enforcement to compare and confirm DNA samples that match both Castillo and Lee. On April 10th, 2025, detectives with the Violent Criminal Apprehension Team, known as VICAT, were tasked with contacting Robert Castillo and arresting him for the murder and sexual assault of Barbara Lee. Castillo's DNA was then compared with other open cases at the Fresno County Sheriff's Office. A match was made with a 2003 rape case, and another match was made with a 2004 rape case. Castillo has an extensive criminal history dating back to 1981. He served prison sentences in the mid-1980s, late 1990s, and mid-2000s for felony property crimes. We are concerned that Robert Castillo may have other victims out there who never made a police report. If you recognize him as committing a crime against you, please call the Fresno County Sheriff's Office at 559-600-3111, or you can contact Valley Crime Stoppers at 559-498-7867. And with Crime Stoppers, all tips do remain anonymous. At this time, I will turn this over to Fresno County DA Lisa Smitkamp to discuss the charges and the filing process with Mr. Castillo.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning, everyone. Before I go into the details of the charges against Mr. Castillo, I want to take the opportunity to congratulate Sheriff Zanoni and his team and thank him so much for opening up this unit in 2024, and also to our staff that participates in this review. Chief Deputy District Attorney Deborah Miller, who is here today with us. She's the chief of our homicide unit, and our crime analyst, Laura Yanofsky. They do amazing work. The technology is evolving every single day, and it's very easy in the worlds that we live in, with the tight schedules that we all have, the overwhelming caseloads that many of these detectives have, to actually never forget these victims, because there are cold cases out there, and with the technology expanding the way that it has over the last few years, the fact that this Sheriff's Department is dedicated to bringing justice to these victims and their families really says a lot about what is going on here in Fresno County, and we are so proud to have been invited to be part of this process. So with that, I would also like to offer my condolences to the Lee family, and these cases, as Sheriff Zanoni said, it's good news, but it's such sad news. And for all this to be unearthed again after 20 years is very difficult, so I'd like to offer my condolences to her family. Mr. Castillo is charged with 1 count of murder and 1 count of sexual penetration by force. 2 counts of sexual penetration by force for 1 victim for incidents that occurred in October of 2004. There is also another victim that was identified and that he had victimized in September 9th specifically of 2004, where he will be charged with 1 count of rape and 2 counts of forcible oral copulation. A third victim from the incident arising out of October 5th of 2003, he will be charged with 1 count of rape. In addition to these charges, he also is also charged with a myriad of what we call special circumstances and enhancements and allegations. He also has a prior strike back from a long time ago that will be alleged to enhance these crimes. With all of these crimes put together, he is looking at the potential penalty of either life without the possibility of parole or the death penalty for the murder of Miss Lee. And when somebody is facing that, that's usually how we address those charges with the maximum exposure. The way that we process these cases, whether we decide when we have a qualifying special circumstances murder, is we wait until after the preliminary hearing is done to determine whether or not we will be seeking the death penalty. So as this case proceeds on through the criminal justice system, after the preliminary hearing is conducted, we will make a determination as to whether we will seek death or we will continue along with a life without the possibility of parole maximum sentence. As the sheriff indicated, Mr. Castillo is currently in custody at the Fresno County Jail, where he remains on $2,105,000 bail. His arraignment is set for Tuesday, April the 29th in Department 32, and the assigned prosecutor will be Senior Deputy District Attorney Caitlin Drake.
Thank you, District Attorney Smith-Camp, for being here and being a great partner on this project. One thing I want to mention is when we talk about the cold case unit, this is about holding people accountable, but it's about getting closure for the victims. It's about getting closure for their families. When you think back to these crimes occurred 20 years ago, and being able to now tell that family, their friends, the family members, is this is who killed your loved one. This is who committed these offenses against your loved one, your sister, your brother, your dad, or whoever it was. I think that closure is very important. And the other message, too, is we have not forgotten. Our job is to protect people in this community and to ensure that victims get justice and that offenders and criminals are held accountable. And that's exactly what's happening here. It may take some time. We just started this in 2024, but to already have 9 cases where suspects are identified and 8 that are filed, I think is very impressive. And hopefully we will bring more justice and more closure to victims and their families out there as we move forward throughout the next few years. And really, it's a credit to the individuals who are standing here with me. They're the ones who have put in the work. They're the ones who identified these cases, and they've gone out and done the work and ensured that we're doing everything we can for these victims. And whether it was a case, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, we're taking a hard look at all these. And with new technology and everything that's developed here in 2025, we feel very confident that we're going to be able to make many more cases here in the future. But before I get into questions, I want to talk about one other related to cold cases and what we're doing. And that is our cold case homicide unit has recently reopened several investigations that occurred between 2017 and 2022 in western Fresno County. These murder cases occurred in and around the cities of San Joaquin, Huron, Coalinga, and Mendota. Obviously, we have evidence, we have some information in these cases, and we're just looking for that one last little piece of the puzzle or something that can help push it over the top so we can make an arrest and hold those suspects accountable and get justice for those victims. But if you have any information that lines up with these types of investigations that have occurred in these areas during that time frame of 2017 to 2022, I urge you to contact us here at the Sheriff's Office, and you can contact Detective Jose Diaz directly at 559-600-8204. If you want to remain anonymous, you can contact Valley Crime Stoppers at 559-498-STOP. But again, if you have information, we're looking to close even more cases, and we're really close, and you may be the last piece to that puzzle. Thank you. At this time, I'll take questions regarding what we're discussing.
When you say related to cold cases, do you mean related to this possible suspect or just cold cases in general?
No, related to cold cases in general. The time frame is from 2017 to 2022. Barbara Lee's case was back in 04, 05. So we're talking about the last 7 years.
I wasn't sure because you said there might be other victims involved. That's with
Yeah, and we believe there could be other victims involved regarding Mr. Castillo and the crimes that he committed. We also urge people to come forward on those cases if you've been victimized him as well.
Was he arrested for other sex crimes with his past?
You know, when I looked at his past, I saw a lot of property crimes. I did not see any sex crimes related to those cases from the 80s and the 90s that he did prison time on.
And then also, can you just, how did they know each other? Did they have a relationship before? Or?
I do not believe that they had a relationship before. I believe this was some sort of random act where she was contacted. But the fact of the matter is she was a victim of a homicide and she was sexually assaulted. And now that individual is in our jail, charges have been filed, and he's being held accountable.
Can you tell us how she was killed?
I'm not going to go into that right now just because we're in the process of, like DA Smitkamp said, as arraignment is pending. We want to make sure that we do everything we can to protect the integrity of the case so we can have the best chance of prosecution.
I just want to clarify. You had said August 2004. The press release says October 2004. What date was her body found?
It was October 31st of 2004. If I said August, I apologize.
Do you know how long she had been there before her body was discovered?
I don't have that information, but I have a detective who may know.
Yeah, she was found in the early morning hours. She wasn't there very long.
Do you know who found her?
Some passerbys.
Just a clarification on the number of counts for rape. It's 2 counts of rape that he's been booked on, or it sounded like there was 2 counts for one victim, 1 count for September 2004 and 1 for 2003.
I'll have District Attorney Smitkamp answer that.
So with regard to Ms. Lee, he was charged with murder as well as 2 counts of sexual penetration by force. In the other 2 victims from the September 9th and the October 5th incidents from 2004 and 2003, he's charged with 1 count of rape in each of those cases. And we do have copies of the complaint for you that would probably help spell that out for you.
One other thing of note, our public information officer, Tony Body, put together the presentation here on the screen, and I want to draw the media's attention to, I said Mr. Castillo being Robert Castillo. People may have been victimized that don't know his name and don't know who he was, but I would like to turn your attention to the pictures over here, especially to my left, and you could see sort of a timeline of photos of what he looked like back in the mid-90s versus 2008 to 2013, and now there he is in 2025. So for anyone who's a possible victim out there, they may not know his name, but they will remember if they were victimized by this individual.
Sheriff, you said that DNA link is on the suspect to this crime. Was he always a suspect, or how did you guys decide to have DNA sort of be as a
He was not always a suspect, but with the technological advances that we have and DNA evolving, and then once we put this cold case unit together, we started evaluating things and looking at what we had as far as evidence, and then how we could go about. It became very evident that this was a case that was solvable, and then we were able to obtain the DNA and confirm it.
What's some of the things that the detectives in the cold case are kind of looking for and using to kind of solve these murders?
Well, there, like we said, evolving DNA technology, but also too, when we're talking about the ones out in western Fresno County, we're just looking for any witness. Maybe over the years, maybe someone has heard something. Maybe they've heard a rumor. Maybe they've heard people talking about different things. As time from an actual crime kind of becomes longer and longer, individuals may start talking because they may think there's anonymity, or they may believe that no one knows that they did it, and they may start telling people, and other people may talk about it. So what we want people to do is, if you know something or you've heard something, give us a call. Like I said earlier, that could be that last little piece to the puzzle that helps us solve these cases, bring the offenders, to hold accountable, and to make sure that the victims are given closure and that justice is served.
Two related questions. What was the reaction from Barbara Lee's family to get this news? And were they one of those families that was calling you frequently asking for updates, to see if there had been any progress in her case?
I don't know that. I will have one of these gentlemen answer that. But this is a case, remember, that originated back in 2004. So I don't know how many calls were made back then to our homicide detectives and things like that, but they can answer that question. Aurelio?
So one of our other cold case detectives, he made a phone call to the family. They hadn't really been calling in. It kind of got lost in their mind. They didn't want to remember it, but they were very excited and happy that there was some closure for them.
Do we have your name and spelling, sir?
Yes, Homicide Detective Aurelio Flores, Aurelioflores.
Now, I know you guys said that he's tied to other rape cases. Are there any unsolved homicide, murder cases that are similar to this one that he may be tied to?
There are unsolved cases that are similar in nature, and this is just a process of us going through and looking at what evidence we had back from, the time frame of when these crimes were occurring, and then comparing it to the evidence that we have now with our evolving DNA technology. So yeah, we're still looking at a lot of different things, but we're also looking at other cases too that, we can help bring closure to these victims and their families.
Was the victim close to where her body was found? Was she close to her home or a place she frequented?
I don't believe she was close to her home. Where was, address?
No, it was several miles away.
Yeah, she was several miles away from where her address was at the time.
Do you
So
think the suspect drove her out there and that's where just disposed of the...
that's what's most likely what happened. When you deal with looking at the location where this crime occurred and looking back at 2004 and 2005, we have that happen sometimes where victims are driven out to rural areas of Fresno County, and then sometimes that's when we get called when we find a deceased person. Anything else? Thank you all for being here today, and appreciate you covering this story.